Okay, 30 minutes later, I realized what I really wanted to say was, when I think about the way that I took responsibility for my students in my school, how their performance was an extension of me and a reflection of my abilities, and what I made that mean, I ask myself now, and of course I was doing what I knew at the time, but I ask myself in retrospect, is that way of being truly serving anyone? And let's look at all three parts of this equation. Was I serving the children by just making it my responsibility that they reach their highest potential in my mind, and doing whatever it took to get them there? In some cases, yes. Namely, well, in some cases, yes, but it really remains to be seen. It's sort of a longer term question, because it depends on how they process that experience with me in the context of their own family environment and the rest of their life experience. So I can't really know, whether I fulfilled my quote unquote responsibility to them. Okay, so let's talk about the parents. Did I serve them? Now, especially the problematic ones, the ones where I felt like I was battling every day and watching them sort of self-destruct in terms of contradicting themselves and having making unmet threats with consequences that they never followed through on or ever intended to follow through on with their kids, as a way to sort of bribe them into performing a certain way. And by not calling that out, and by feeling afraid of attacking their parenting, and just not being honest about what I saw, and not having the way to say it in a way that didn't feel to me like passing judgment or admonishing someone older than me, all of which in my mind were out of bounds. Just being unwilling to be the leader in that way for the parents, and holding all of that judgment and resentment inside until I finally came up with the 1, 2, 3 system, which was a little bit passive aggressive, but I came out and I explained it. And I think that for most of them who were open, it was well received. And it didn't sit well with some people, and I had to be okay with that too. And I think that was the hurdle that I kind of crossed, but never really crossed. It was just so strong in my mind that I had to please these people. They were older than me, they were parents, they were customers, they were so many things. And in my mind, I couldn't just stand strong and lead them in this way. I didn't feel it was my place to comment on parenting, even though basically that's what they were paying me to do at the end of the day. So did I serve them by sort of silently working around them on their kid? And what purpose did it serve for me to form this sort of side relationship with their child that was going to be, in a way, undone and counterbalanced by the parent 6 out of the 7 days of the week, 23 out of the 24 hours in that day. So there was an opportunity where my fear or my inability to find the words, the courageous conversation words to tell the truth really didn't serve, because in the long run, with those revelations to those who were open to it, which was most people, were those revelations in the long run going to serve them, even if it meant leaving the program or not, deciding not to continue in music, which to me wasn't even the point anyway. My overall goal was the meta. I didn't really care about the violin outcomes. And that was the other clash, that I had when some of the parents started to care a lot more about the musical outcomes at any cost versus the process and what you become in the process of getting those results. And that's just a difference of vision, and is just, you know, I think I was willing to accept that and let those people go if they wanted to leave, but what some of them wanted to do was to control and manipulate me into their agenda, which I wasn't going to do either. So it's all about kind of, I didn't know at all how to exercise real love versus spider love. I knew, you know, kind of passive-aggressive versions of spider love, trying to please people, but while holding in the core of my truth and allowing it to simmer up and then finally just explode in the only way I knew how, which was, you know, having different kinds of lectures and meetings and stuff. But at the end of the day, in the moment, those relationships were so solidly rooted in a certain pattern, and I had so much uncertainty about stepping into a new courageous place with those relationships that I just had to walk away. So my growing courage is the willingness to take those risks, different risks. And then finally, before I go into that, the third piece of the stool is, did I serve me by having this, you know, overextended sense of responsibility for everyone? And basically, if you look at the school, it was an ego trip, because I was most concerned, or I got pulled into being mostly focused on what our performances looked like. And that was the biggest thing that weighed on me at the end, which was like, I felt like I was running to catch up with these performances that kept coming up, and then people were measuring our, quote, success based on the number of performances, and that wasn't it for me. I had a different measure of success, which was the development of people's attitudes, which I could feel in the space of wordless communication. How people showed up, I felt that. That was how I was measuring success. And none of that was feeling quite right to me. Like, I never really got a handle on what was going on there, because there was a lot of flowery language being used, and I was trying to use a lot of words to convey what I was experiencing wordlessly. I think we already know the answer to whether it served me, which in the end, I mean, we saw the toll that it took on my body, and it, you know, long term served a purpose. Long term served a purpose. Okay, there's like total jaywalkers in the middle of the street. Anyway, it long term served a purpose because it brought me this insight into a totally new realm of possibility and a very exciting way to teach. So by living through that, I have this depth of experience from which to teach the way I really want to teach right now, which I experienced this Tuesday. I mean, it was really, really amazing. But in that situation, in terms of creating a situation for myself, that overextension ultimately didn't serve me, and then ultimately the people around me were not getting to share my gifts. So, you know, I think the opening question was, what is the ultimate service? What does it mean to serve another person? To teach them, or to take responsibility for them, or to shape them? And I think that we need to step back from this idea, you know, even, you know, what I was doing with the parents, in terms of, you know, doing it for them, and just not allowing any failures and making it a bad thing. God, I mean, what a different school it would be if I had sort of had the Pixar mentality of public, frequent, daily failures. Like, let's all do it. Let's all, like, including me. If I had had the ability to go into my own vulnerability and do that, what would have happened? What might have happened? and we'll never know because it can't be replayed. But that's sort of my next experiment with life, which is what happens when I allow myself the space to fail publicly, early, and often. We shall see.